Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're treating plant health like a full-blown forensic investigation to solve the mystery of sick plants. We're diving deep into the fascinating and, yeah, sometimes totally frustrating world of soil and plant nutrition. If you've ever stood over a struggling garden bed or a drooping houseplant and just scratched your head wondering what went wrong, you are absolutely in the right place. So grab your magnifying glass because today we become plant detectives.
The classic question. This is the single most common pain point for any gardener, right? You walk outside and suddenly your prized tomato or your favorite rhododendron is looking distinctly yellow and, well, sad. To actually solve this, we need to realize that the culprit is very often completely invisible to the naked eye. It's human nature to blame the things we can easily see, the bugs chewing holes, the fuzzy molds, but more often than not, the real crime is happening completely out of sight, right beneath our feet in the soil. All right, here's our game plan for cracking the case. We'll start with the plant detective mindset. Uncover the secrets of the soil. Meet the macro and micronutrients. Read the leaves for clues. Spot specific deficiencies. And finally, wrap up with why testing before treating is your ultimate verdict. Part 1. The Plant Detective. Let's rule out the usual suspects. The crucial first step here is that we must rule out the living, biotic pests and focus our investigation entirely on the abiotic, non-living environment. Plant experts use this thing called the disease circle. It basically divides plant problems into biotic, like your fungi, bacteria, and insects, and abiotic. Abiotic factors are the non-living stressors. We're talking about drought, terrible drainage, a sudden freeze, or a major nutrient imbalance. So when a plant is struggling, your very first move is to pause, step away from the chemical sprays, and ask, wait, is the environment actually what's causing all this stress? Moving on to part 2, secrets of the soil. Time to investigate the actual scene of the crime. So why isn't fertilizer just a magic cure-all? Well, it's because physical barriers can literally lock up those nutrients and suffocate the roots. Take compacted clay, for example. You can actually diagnose this yourself using a simple screwdriver test. If you can't easily push a screwdriver into the top 6 inches of your soil, your plant's roots are physically restricted. Add in standing water, crazy temperature extremes, or a highly alkaline pH, and the plant simply cannot absorb the food that is sitting right there in the dirt. It's exactly like being in an all-you-can-eat buffet, but your mouth is taped shut. Section 3. Macro and micronutrients. Let's officially meet the essential elements. We can pretty cleanly divide a plant's requirements into 2 main camps: macronutrients for major growth and micronutrients, which are needed in much smaller trace amounts. Think of macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium as the meat and potatoes of the plant world. Plants need a ton of this stuff to build stems, leaves, and roots. On the flip side, micronutrients like iron, zinc, or boron are a lot more like vitamins. They only need a tiny, tiny amount, but if they are missing, the entire biological machine just grinds to a terrifying halt. Part 4. Reading the leaves and uncovering the clues of nutrient mobility. Honestly, this brings us to the biggest scientific aha moment of our entire investigation. It's all about understanding how plants actually transport their food. Some nutrients are mobile, meaning the plant can actively move them around inside its vascular system. If a plant runs out of a mobile nutrient like nitrogen, it'll literally cannibalize its older bottom leaves. It steals that nitrogen and ships it up to the top to make sure the new growth survives. Because of this, the bottom leaves turn yellow first. But immobile nutrients, like iron or calcium, are basically cemented in place once they're used. If the soil runs out of iron, the old leaves stay perfectly green, but the brand new leaves at the top come out all sickly and yellow. The physical location of the symptom is absolutely your biggest clue here. Section 5. Spotting the deficiencies. Let's bring in the suspect lineup. Let's start with a really common suspect, a lack of nitrogen, which, remember, we just learned is a highly mobile nutrient, is going to present as a generalized uniform chlorosis, or yellowing, starting right down on the oldest leaves. The whole plant just starts looking pale overall, maybe a bit stunted or spindly. And because nitrogen is so easily washed away by heavy rains, it's very frequently the first macronutrient to go missing in action during the growing season. Now check this out. When the edges of the leaves turn all brown and crispy, but the center is still green, you are looking at marginal scorch. This is the classic textbook signature of a potassium deficiency. However, a really good detective notes that severe drought or even saltburn from over-fertilizing can mimic this exact same symptom.
The plant is essentially struggling to move water and nutrients to its furthest extremities, the very edges of the leaf. Next up in the lineup is one of the most striking visual clues in all of botany, interveinal chlorosis. This is where the leaf tissue turns yellow, but the veins remain starkly dark green, looking almost like a skeleton. But remember our mobility rule from earlier. If this skeleton pattern happens on the brand new leaves at the top of the plant, you've got an iron deficiency. If it's happening on the old leaves way down at the bottom of the plant, that's a magnesium deficiency. Same exact pattern, totally different suspect, solved entirely by looking at the location. Conversely, what if your plant's foliage turns dark green with these distinct purple, bronze, or red tints? Well, you are likely looking at a phosphorus deficiency. But here is a massive plot twist for you. Phosphorus is rarely actually absent from the soil. Instead, the symptom is almost always triggered by cold, wet spring soils. The soil temperature is simply too cold for the roots to process the phosphorus that's already sitting right there. As soon as the weather warms up, the symptom usually just vanishes completely on its own. Finally, part 6. Test before you treat. Time to reach a verdict. We've gathered a lot of clues, but a good detective never makes an arrest on a hunch. This 3-step diagnostic key gives you a really tangible action plan. Step 1. Where is the symptom? Is it top or bottom? Step 2. What does it look like? Are we talking overall yellowing, crispy edges, or that skeletal interveinal look? Step 3. Check the physical soil environment. Is it compacted like a brick? Is the pH totally out of whack? By simply following these steps, you narrow down the possibilities dramatically before you even think about buying a treatment. And this right here is exactly why we diagnose before we treat. Nutrients in the soil are highly interactive. Over-fertilization based on a bad guess can actually cause a toxic excess that physically prevents the plant from absorbing other vital nutrients. For instance, if you blindly dump potassium on a plant that doesn't even need it, you can artificially induce a magnesium deficiency. You are literally making the problem worse by trying to help. So if you take nothing else away from this entire explainer, let it be this: stop guessing. Seriously, stop blindly dumping bags of general-purpose fertilizer onto your landscape hoping for a miracle. Submit a proper soil test to your local agricultural extension. A soil test tells you exactly what your soil has, exactly what it lacks, and what the pH is. It takes all the guesswork out of the equation and hands you hard, forensic data. Now that you know how to decode the silent signals of the soil, the yellowing leaves, the crispy edges, and those skeletal veins, what mysteries are you going to uncover in your own backyard? The next time you see a struggling plant, you won't just see a problem, you'll see a puzzle just waiting to be solved. Happy sleuthing, plant detectives!